Okay? Now, all those ones, wife and husband are roles. So it's like coming to the office as project manager and project management office. So you don't argue. When now says, okay, please, madam, can you take down notes? You don't say, is your own hand bent? You can't take notes. So the conversation, because if that happens, you won't move forward. If that guy says, I don't like the way you're talking to me, don't worry, when you get to the traditional room, you can pinch his nose. He won't mind then. Relationship room, this is where the husband and the wife manage their chemistry. Women, you like that, right? Yeah, how we feel, how it makes me feel. Sort me out, yeah. Then the project room is where you plan, review, and execute plans and vision of the marriage. So this is where you discuss it and make it plain. This is where you are in everyday life making it happen. Does that make sense? Like I said, it happens simultaneously. It's just for you to manage your conversations. So realize this is very important. The room determines the context of the roles. So those personas that we mentioned and the persons and the roles, this is where it matters. And if you understand this, you'll be able to save yourself a lot of problems that often occurs in relationships. Can we go to the previous slide quickly? Now, next one. The 3 rooms principle is designed to help you have effective conversations in marriage and to manage communication efficiently, intentionally, and successfully. Pay attention. I'm not giving you the slides. So if you don't note it, next time, I'm not. So next time you have to pay for it. I just want to wake you up. BK, if you sleep, I won't give you the slides. The conversations are necessary to ensure the right expectations are established in marriage. Now, this is just to help you ladies and the guys so that you know why this is being proposed. If you don't have the right expectations, there's no way. Don't assume you see things the same way or you expect the same outcomes from the same activity. If you can't agree on expectations, you will fight. And Satan will help. Number 2, you're supposed to help the process of synergy, impact, and cohesion and cooperation in your marriage. Number 3, it's supposed to allow unspoken issues to be addressed in marriage. To allow communication to happen as it should, right conversations. So often I say that right conversations lead to right agreement leads to right unity leads to right synergy leads to right movement of purpose. If you Instagram that, reference me. So the right conversation happens when it should and the way it should. Number 4, it improves self-discovery and self-development in marriage to enable growth of both individuals as one. Number 5, it prevents and eliminates major areas of conflict that cause division and destruction of homes. Next slide again. So the relational room, like I said, business room is where you live out your marriage based on heaven's agenda. Relationship room is where you work on your chemistry. Project room is where you actually do activities together and create impact. The room determines the context of the roles. Next slide. Now, let's talk about business room roles. The way roles function, every role has its pair. In the 7 P's that we often advise couples to look at when they're having conversations going into marriage and after marriage, the first P is your person, which is who you are. That's defined by the things that you give value to, the things that motivate you, the things that drive you, the things that shaped you, is what your person is. It's often not obvious, but when someone relates with you closely, they can find out the kind of person that you are. Often, the issues are, we often confuse our personality for our person. Often we marry a personality and then find out the person in the marriage, and that's when conflict ensues. So we often encourage people that you need to differentiate between both your own person and personality and the person and personality of your husband or your wife, so that you understand where the communication is coming from. Now, personality is the way you socialize, okay? We'll talk a lot more about the other 7 P's, but I think I wanted to mention those 2, and the third one, which is persona. Now, you see, persona is the roles that you take on in the context of marriage. Does that make sense? So there's a person's person. You know them. He's a good guy. He loves the Lord. He values the things of the kingdom, and so on and so forth. His personality is the way he comes across. So some people, for instance, they're very direct. They just give it to you straight. They don't, they don't mince words. They just say it as it is. That's their personality. Because personality is the way we socialize. Does that make sense? So some people, when they want to say something, most ladies are like this. When something happens, they take like 24 hours to process it. Some people take longer than 24 hours, and then they begin to come back in beat. Some people take months. You now say, sweetheart, something happened 3 months ago. The man says, a whole 3 months? So personality is the way we come across, all right? But persona is the roles that we play in a relationship. Someone say persona? Say persona is the roles we play. Now, so this roles is what we're talking about here. The business room is where synergy with God occurs and synergy with one another begins. So if you fail in the business room conversation, you're likely to fail in other rooms. The business room is where spiritual principles are obtained and the marriage interfaces with God. And it's also where worship takes place. And worship is what we've been talking about for the last 2 days. Is where the family submits to God's principle. We said without lordship, there's no worship, right? So this is where listening to God, drawing up strategies for the home, preparing them, setting the principle of the marriage and the home happens. So but for all of this to happen, for synergy, for the principle to be obtained, for that union being able to draw from God, there will have to be several personas that will be involved. But like we said, for the personas, always have a peer. So what's the peer for what's the peer role for husband is what? Wife. For the priest is what? Help me. For the discipler is what? For the missionary is what? For the director is what? Manager. For the father is what? Mother. So that's the father, you see the instructor, the mother, teacher, discipler, nurturer of the children, and so on and so forth. This is to give you an idea of the kind of roles that occur. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you have seen these roles play out in your own conversation in your marriage? Okay? How many of you have been able to, when it is happening, have those conversations without what I call personal glitches? If you want to know what that is, go and get the book. Personal glitching is when someone is trying to shift between one person and the other, and they get stuck in the middle. So they're trying to be wife, but then, I'm lover. I don't like when he's talking to me, so they just get stuck in between. And they freeze. Or the husband too. The ladies, I'm not picking on you. It happens also with the men. You understand what I mean? So, how many of you were able to, have had personality glitches in this conversation? That person just got stuck, and you also got stuck in the middle somewhere, and the leaders want to come and extricate you and settle you and give you a shot of adrenaline, to revive you. So it's important that if you don't understand these roles, you will fight. So when the man is the husband, you are what? The wife. You are not the woman here. You are not the lover here. You are what? The wife. Someone said the wife. Say it with pride. Say the wife. The wife. It's not the woman. The Bible says a woman find a good thing. No, there are many women, but there are very few wives. A wife is a role you are tutored into. Remember what we said? Males are born, men are made. Husbands are trained. Females are born, women are made. Then wives are trained. So it's something you attend to. So can the wives in this room say, who? Yeah, it's very high estate. It's a high estate. When the husband in this room say, who are? Yeah, it's a high estate. It's a high calling. It's a calling to be Christ-like in the institution of marriage. So hold it in high regard. Don't mess it up. When you have your issues to pick up as lovers, go to relationship room. Does that make sense? Never mess up with the business room. Say to your spouse, we will never mess up with the business room. Because that's where God, that's that's the principal, that's the gardener, that's where it comes in the cool of the evening to talk with your marriage. Don't mess it up. After that one, you can go and play with your wife under the apple tree. So, husband, wife, priest, what? Helpmate. The husband is the priest of the home. The woman is the Levite that prepares the condiments. This is the one that a lot of women will find challenging if they were not dead yet. But the women here are dead, so they won't mind. Discipler, disciple. Hallelujah. Husbands, you are supposed to disciple madam. Amen? Yeah. But don't be overbearing with it. And say, pastor said, I need to disciple. So sit down and pick your Bible. Let me teach you. It doesn't work that way. She's not your student. She's a student of Christ. You're just supposed to help her facilitate her learning. Amen? Amen. You don't make her in your own image and likeness. You're not that fine. Because Christ's image and likeness. Yes. No. The wife cannot be the discipler of the man. It will destroy the order of the home. Yes, sir.
I think the expression is should not be.
Should not be. Yes. But in some home it happens. Thank you very much. The woman should not be. But that's true. In many homes, the man is the disciple and the woman is the discipler. Yeah, the man is wearing the skirt and the woman is wearing the trousers. But it should not be. Now, what should a woman do if she finds that there are things that her husband doesn't know? There are ways to influence him. Not to manipulate, but to influence him. But whilst the man might say, okay, my dear, this is what we're going to do. This is how Christ wants us to do it. And he can bring it in an authoritative, let's put it that way. The woman must bring it by virtue of godly influence. Does that make sense? Respecting his role as the husband, even if his person is not respectable. Does that make sense? So you might look at him and think, why should I even respect you? You are not even worthy of respect. Yes, we know. But the role is representative of Christ's government. You respect Christ. So you don't rebuke an elder, you treat him as a father. So you must find a way to show him. Now, it doesn't mean you can't share knowledge. We share things that my wife will share. I say, yeah, no, I didn't think of it that way. Thank you for sharing that. That's different. But what this does is it forces the man to take on the role of spiritual leadership and direction. Because once you take it, you break the order. It's going to affect generations. So if he's not doing it, let's keep praying. Yes. No, she's not. Yeah, the man is still the head of the home. And I think I've had this conversation with some people who say, well, I seem to be more mature than my husband. How is he going to lead me? And the question I ask them is this: can he lead your person? Can he lead you as a person? If the answer is yes, then that's okay. Can he provide leadership to you as a person? You see, many things, when a woman says a spiritual head, what she's not factoring in is that in all the day-to-day matters of life, that headship doesn't really count. She may be the one that prays in the morning for 3 hours and is vibrating and and releasing, but all of that thing, by the time she comes down from the prayer mountain, she has to fit in the role of a wife. So it's still the head of the home. It may be that she's the chief intercessor for the home. That's not spiritual headship. So the fact that she takes on the role of I'm praying for the family doesn't mean headship. That's not headship. She's just fulfilling the role of intercessor. So she needs to be advised that the fact that you're more spiritual doesn't mean it has destroyed the structure that God has set for the home. So she's not the spiritual head. She may be more spiritually alert. She may be more spiritually gifted. Headship is a thing that is conferred. It is not earned through gifting. Do you understand what I mean? Once you come into that role, the man is the head. Period. If he fails, God will judge him. But the woman should not usurp his role.
But in a scenario where some husbands are house husbands, how does that fit here?
Now, we're not talking about chores,
Okay.
which is the tasks you do in everyday life. Has nothing to do with headship. Does that make sense? So that means as you guys are discussing in the business room, how do we manage the home? What are the things that we need to do to make this home stable through the seasons of marriage? It might be that in terms of resource management in the home, the man is in a better position to provide those certain aspects of those deliverables. It does not make him the helpmate. Does that make sense? Because you have to see husband and wife as the spiritual role, that then cascades down into other details of life. So whilst the woman may be more suited for things around the home, the woman is still the one responsible for the climate of the home, for the environment. You understand? The nurture. Even the man may be good at here and there, but she will never become a woman. So most men who are house husbands, the question I need to ask you is this: would he carry the baby and say, "Oh, kuti, sorry"? You know how women do it. Have you ever seen a man that does it like that? Even though he's a house husband, does he lose his masculinity? No. If he actually does, to a point where we can actually call him a house husband, that he does it that we cannot tell the role of a woman apart, maybe we should call him a housewife. I see my point. That though the man does those chores, he does not remove his manhood. Just like the fact that the woman goes to work and earns more than the man does not make her the man. She might growl and deepen her voice and tell all the men in her office what to do. When she comes home, she's Mrs. Wife. Does that make sense? So what we call house husband, we need to break it down to just the fact that there was just a set of tasks, a set of chores that the home needs to function. And yeah, there's nothing in helping one another to make the home happen. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Yes.
I'm not sure if this is going to be a long answer, but at what point does the priest suddenly become the helper, or the disciple suddenly become the discipler, or the visionary suddenly become the interpreter?
No, they don't become.
I know they don't, but because obviously these are kind of concepts that help us.
Yep.
Up until this point, the lines might be blurred.
Yep.
So how do we clearly demarcate where, like practically speaking, where you may have been slipping into one or the other?
Well, that's going to be a very, very tough question for me, because that will depend on scenarios. Since I don't have specific scenarios, that could be something we discuss in our breakout sessions, and we can bring out specific questions. But did you want to say something more?
No, I was just going to ask if you could describe what a priest does, what a discipler does. How would those different hats? How different are they? What do they mean?
Okay. Now I put this there just to become anchors to our mind. I didn't actually intend to go into the details of it. I expect the family just to know that there are different roles that the hats that we generally wear, and to use that to have our conversations. However, husband and wife, everybody gets, right? We don't hold you on. Okay. Now, so under the husband role, the husband is supposed to stand before the Lord for his family, not the wife. It's not. That's what should happen. Does that make sense? So, in that role as priest, if the husband is fulfilling his role, the wife should know how to support that role and to stand before the Lord. As discipler, the husband ideally should commit himself to following the doctrine of Christ, learning what Christ wants. Usually in the context of a community where the culture is being advocated, where there's eldership that is supporting the families, okay? That's what should happen. Some of our churches do have that, some don't, but thankfully we can all relate to one another and find a place where the men are drinking from the streams of culture. Make sense? So this man, who is going to be the discipler, must be a disciple himself. Does that make sense? Otherwise, if he's the source of culture and he himself is not being cultured, there's a problem. So he's supposed to bring home and set the principles of culture for the home, and the wife must then take that and style her life around that culture so that they can then have agreement with the Lord. Does that make sense? So for visionary, ideally, Even if he's not the one that sees the vision, he's responsible for it. It's not in every home that the man will be the one saying, the Lord said to me, I see the Lord, stuff like that. Sometimes the wife will see, but it's for the man to judge and own it for the home. Because if the wife sees it and they do it and they fail, God is going to come and ask him. So when I say visionary, it doesn't mean the wife doesn't see visions. But what happens if the wife is the one that sees the vision and the man doesn't see it? Don't lord it over him, don't become a witch. Allow the Lord who gave you the vision, who is his boss, to tell him of it. Does that make sense? So, but let's say in a situation where he owns the vision, so put it this way, he facilitates a conversation in which all of this is discussed, and as the home moves forward, you find that in many cases, I'm not saying it's in all cases, the woman often can interpret the vision better in the life and the culture of the home more than the man. So that's the role of interpreter. Then director and the manager, this is just to more or less answer the questions of, are we two directors? Because if it's two directors, when he says his own, you say your own. You say your own, I say my own. But it's to understand that we're one team that are complementary. And often I find that a lot more women are gifted in practical management than us men anyway. That's true for me. I'm terrible at management. Father, instructor. Now these roles, what I want you to note is this. These are franchises of God. Fatherhood and motherhood don't belong to you, just like husband and wifehood doesn't belong to you. It's a role you give account for. So fatherhood and motherhood is you, on behalf of God, transferring his nature and culture and care to other things. Same with the motherhood, his nurture, and the ability to give life to seed. God has given to every woman that ability. Eve was called the mother of all living, not just the mother of her own children. So fatherhood and motherhood is that right that God gives us to source, to seed, to cultivate, to culture, and to nurture unto legacy. And the father and mother have to do that together. So whilst the man is looking out, is owning the father aspect, the woman must work in tandem with him. So for instance, you know that these roles should never cross. The man should never be a mother. He may nurture, but anyway. Is that clear? A little bit? Yeah? Can I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to do here is for every role, there's a compatible pair. As you're in that business room, be thinking, I didn't put this there, you notice I didn't put lover there. I didn't put mistress there. All those sort of things. Next slide, please. Slide next. The relationship room, this is where all of you are waiting for, right? Yeah. The women must like, men like the business room, yeah. Isn't it, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
That's our room. It's a room of responsibility. Hey, goes of this matter to enable interaction and establishing of principles. The things that are agreed in the business room, you must bring it into this room. Don't go like, hey, husband, that room that we just spoken about, you were the ones that is controlling things. Me here is my thing. Don't do that. You're supposed to ship the principle and the values that you discussed and work it out in this room. Soften it. Bring it together. Synergize. So first thing is development. Development is implementing and installing the principles with the aim of building the relationship as well as ensuring that you are growing as individuals and as a unit. This is a precursor to building capacity. All of the visions, if your home is a godly home, all of the visions you discuss in the business room, you will not be in a position to fulfill it at that point in time. Make sense? So when God said to Adam and Eve, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, have dominion. That's something in the future. They have to sit down and discuss it and plan how that's going to happen. Does that make sense? So at the point that their marriage was initiated, they will need to develop themselves into a place where they can fulfill it. Does that make sense? It is in this room, the relationship room that women intuitively love to be in, that is where this development should happen. So don't waste all of that romance. Don't just waste it on just for the sake of romance, just for the sake of, I just want him to talk to me this way. Use it purposefully. Use it to develop your chemistry. Use it as a place of nurture and culture for one another. Use it as a place of synergy to create potential together and build capacity. Use it as a place to build unity, to bond and become one, emotional and social unity and intimacy. Does that make sense to everyone? Emotional unity, social unity is how you sing, how you relate together, and intimacy. So this is a place where you understand each other's needs and co, but don't spend too much time there that you are not able to do any other business. Was there a question?
Oh no, sorry. I just remembered and I give thanks.
He was giving thanks to God. Whilst we are all here talking, he will just be going to the upper room and we're here now. Next slide, please. The project room, the goals of this room are to create a suitable environment for planning, review, and execution of plans and vision for the marriage. As your marriage grows, the region of influence of your marriage grows beyond the boundaries of your position as a man and a wife in the project room. What this is basically saying is, as you grow, the influence of Christ will begin to grow in a radius around you. The first radius will be your, if you have children, your children begin to feel the impact. Then as your family grows, that impact will be felt beyond the borders of your home. So project room is actually the place where we're extending the impact of our conversation outwards by doing things that we do. Does that make sense? Projects about the things that we do. For instance, parenting is a project. It takes two to tango to have children, right? There was only one Virgin Mary. Since then, I rest my case. Then there's a home development project, which is how do we develop the home? How do we build a house? Often I say the man is responsible for the house, the women are responsible for the home, but if of course, we do it together. But it means the house means the legacy systems, and the women, the environment, the climate of nurture. You see what I mean? So that needs some synergy. You are going to do that together, both from the physical assets of the home to the cultural assets of the home to the environmental, all those sort of things. Then your ministry and service within the community. Now, this is not the community that you are living in. It's a community of saints that you belong with. God needs every family to be a resource within a context of other families. In fact, the whole point of the ecclesia is built around families relating to other families. Does that make sense? So each of your family, you must know what it is that God wants you to do in the context of a community of other saints. Then, some of the families will have ministry and service to the world. In fact, all of us will have interface with the world at some point. So, we're that. Now, remember this, that Pastor Jerry mentioned a few days ago, that every single person in this world comes from a family. There's no one who has not had the privilege to pastor a family. Thank God we don't produce test tube babies yet. Everybody has had a chance to pastor a family. So if they have come out and failed, it's because something was wrong with the family structure. All right? So you have to realize that all of these things is basically saying to you, it's from the family that impact is driven into the world. So, anyway, next slide. If you don't apply this three-room principle, these are the things you're likely to experience. There's going to be conflict of roles. There's going to conflict in expectations. There's going to be team conflict, which is lack of vision and agreement. This will impact on project delivery. You'll not be able to do anything together. The husband will do his own, the wife will do his own, and Satan will be laughing. Okay? Disillusionment will come. After 5 years of it, I don't feel love anymore. Like, the film we were watching yesterday. I don't feel love. I don't think I love him. Who's asking whether you love him or not? In a covenant. Embarrassment, frustration and anger. Then your wrong moral compass will evolve and parameters of success. You now begin to measure yourself by all different things. And God is shaking his head. Abuse of time. You will abuse each other. You will abuse your resources, your talent. I can do. You waste it. You abuse people around you. You'll abuse opportunities. And then there will be an achieved purpose. God will be disappointed. You'll be disappointed because the impact you're supposed to have, you couldn't have it. And the world will be missing it. The world is still waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God, people. So this is how we manifest. Make sense? Next slide. I'll run through this very quickly.
Okay, are you going to define each one?
I'll define each one. The person when you are discussing in the rooms, yeah, it's important that you have a very sound knowledge of this. If you don't, at least know you don't and seek to find it out as you discuss with your spouse. Don't assume you know your spouse. You don't know them as well. They don't even know themselves as well. There are things I found out about myself every single year. I'm thinking, even me, if I have to study me, I'll study me for a lifetime. You know, in different situations, in different seasons, with different sort of challenges, as I develop, I respond differently. So, but you see a person, as we said, call that your value systems. Many times, in a marriage, we may assume our value system align, but they don't often align. Value systems are the things you actually give value to, the things you give worth to. Shall we say, the things you worship? Or let's put it this way, the things you live for. Many of us say, no, I just love Jesus. You know, Jesus Christ is just my Lord and Savior and co. But until certain things are demanded of you, you don't know that yet. I remember there was a time in our relationship that even though the values were right, the order of the values, we have to struggle to align them. Here's what I mean. If in the order of the way you see your home, your own order is spirit, soul, body, and the other person's order is soul, body, spirit. Now, we don't think about these things like that. Here's what I mean. Naturally, when it comes to the context of the home, the woman's concept of order is soul first. How do I feel about what is happening? Does that make sense, ladies? Am I interpreting you correctly? That's the first order. Whereas the man's order is often can also stem from the soul, but it's logical. Now, logic actually is closer to objectivity, whilst feelings is closer to subjectivity. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying? So, I'm not saying the men are more righteous. I'm not saying that it's very easy for a man to say, okay, but the word of God said this now. For a woman to say, yes, I know, but, I'm not even to say that. I know that, but, what you're saying is the truth, but, I don't like how you're saying it. Even though you're saying the truth, but, ladies, it's not as if I mind you correcting me, but, amen? So, you find out that in that, as you push forward, your personalities and your person as a woman will step in, and it can just create a glitch in the moment. So even in that order, if once you're trying to follow a principle of truth, you don't deal with that, it's going to cause problems. So it's even knowing that even though we have the right value systems, in what order, if there needs to be prioritizing, do we prioritize? Imagine Abraham saying to his wife, the Lord just spoke to me and said, we're going to sacrifice Isaac. And you were Miss Sarah. What would be your first thought? You and this your God. Sort yourself out. I'm calling social services. You can tell that social services. You want to kill my son, you're saying you are bringing it on God. You're a murderer. Kill her. Everybody help. Oh, like African woman. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Not that it is wrong in itself to have that basis, but it's that we must always be able to track into God. Anyway, I was talking about person and value systems. So this is the things that wake you up every morning. It's what motivates you. It's what you really value. Some of you value convenience, but you think you value God. Some of you value riches. You think you value God. Some of you value comfort. You think you value God. But it's when that thing is demanded from you, that's when you now know what you really worship. So it's good that you ask yourself this. Now, let me say this to you. Don't go pointing to your spouse and saying, Pastor has said it. You're a very selfish person. No. This is for you to point on yourself more. If you see what's in you, you'll be much more humble when you deal with the other person. Don't judge people. But you see, when this happens, as you guys discuss, it helps you to self-reflect and position yourself in a way that God's word can make sense to both of you. Because if you don't, you will be your own, each other's standard of truth rather than God being your standard of truth. Okay? Now, personality, this is what was described yesterday, this is where we often have problems. Somebody who is quiet marries someone who is not. And then you marry, the quiet person is trying to make the talker quiet. The talker is trying to make the quiet person talkative. How many of you are experiencing that? How many of you, your husbands are quiet, you are talkative? Okay, you talk more. All right. Or the other way around. Okay. And have you been trying to construct the other person in your own image yet? Has this started to happen? He's been trying to, they're trying to construct her in your own image. Okay. You can modify her a little bit, but don't, yeah, just a little bit. But because she looks like you, then you're not going to start thinking, did I marry myself? Sometimes you need a bit of. So personality, understand that your personality is not you. It's just the way you come across. It's a tool for social engagement. Don't let that become the basis on how you judge other people. It's just a personality. It's just the way I feel about stuff. You should be able to think above that and allow your value systems to drive your relationship rather than your personality to drive your relationship. Does that make sense? Now, purpose is when you come together in a relationship. Yeah.
So, am I right in assuming that your personality may change but your person doesn't change?
Your person actually will evolve as you grow in Christ. Because when we start out, we don't have the same. When I met my wife, we got married, my person, my value system, of course my core value system was baseline on Christ. But there's still certain things I expected, I consider to be success that wake me up in the morning that are not the same things that wake me up today. Does that make sense? Because I evolved in Christ. So your person will, let's just say your person will appreciate, hopefully, and not depreciate. Does that make sense? But your personality should be controlled by your person. So it means that your personality is your tendencies, your person is you. So you can decide how you want to come across. Does that make sense? So, but many times, because people have not developed their persons well, they let their personality dictate the way they relate. So they say, that's just who I am. You cannot be telling me to keep quiet now. You know, when I talk, I raise my voice. We know that's how we talk in our family. That's me. You should not try to change me. No, you can change. If it makes sense in that relationship, your person can regulate your personality. Does that make sense? So you should regulate your personality with your person. Actually, that's a sign of maturity. If when your personality kicks in, you can't control it, you need to grow. Because you should be able to make decisions in real time as relating to people on how you want to relate to them, not that you get in and then you just get into automatic mode. No! Your value systems should be in control of your expression. Make sense? But we don't want to kill your expression. We want you to own it. And don't let it own you. That's the whole idea. So the fact that you are talkative or expressive is not a bad thing. But when you are not controlling it, it becomes something else. The fact that you're passionate is not a bad thing. But when it manifests as anger, it's troublesome. Or as lust, it's troublesome. Does that make sense? So you have to govern your personality with your person. Yes, Chris.
Simple question. Can that lead to confusion? So you spoke about making decisions real time and how you relate to the people.
Mhm.
So let's say spouse, or say in the context of your spouse. So let's say you're doing that, but then they confuse that with your personality. So the fact that you're able to adapt and adjust for certain
Different
scenarios,
Mhm.
they might think, oh, that's now your personality. But it's not. You're actually just,
Adjusted.
yes.
Well, it shouldn't lead to confusion. Let's say that people can confuse that, but it shouldn't really cause any problems. For instance, yesterday someone was trying to analyze myself. I think it was myself, Pastor Shea, and Pastor Femi, and trying to see if we fit certain persona types for the types of husband. And she was having a hard time to place the three of us. Pastor Shea said, "No, let him help her out." That by virtue of experience and development, we can actually fit those three types as needed. So many things, people, for instance, will think I'm choleric. How many of you are choleric? Oh, some of you don't.
I think you're correct.
Yeah, choleric.
What's
Huh? Choleric are goal-oriented personalities. They are extroverted, goal-oriented. So that means in this relational context, they will sacrifice relationship to achieve an end point. They're always just goal focused rather than person focused.
Okay. That's not.
Uh-huh. No, the fact, but yeah, but you see, the be that personality type, I know BK is not entirely that.
Entirely.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's just like if you come across me when something needs to be done, but life is something that's kingdom. If you come into that zone, you're going to feel like I'm dragging you know. But it's just because in that line of my work, I can see it needs to be done, so I can apply myself to it. But I'm not actually like that personality-wise. So some people think I'm phlegmatic. If you catch me in a dull moment, I can be at home for 2 weeks and not talk to anybody, and I'm fine. Melancholy. So the point is this: even though people have that impression, it shouldn't cause a problem because you're in control. Does that make sense? Even if it means to explain, I'll tell people that. I think was it yourself I was telling that I'm quiet, and she started laughing. I said, "But Luis, I am quiet." Even he's laughing.
I agree.
You do?
Personality type.
How do you know?
Because even upon first coming to KC Man, on a personal level, we didn't really communicate much. But in the scope, in the setting of teaching and preaching, that's when you're in your element.
So he got me there. But I managed to deceive most people. So you see that people might just say, "Oh, but you are, but you're not, but you are." Someone will look at Lau, for instance, and say, "Lau is quiet."
Yeah.
Just push his button. Just one small button. He will talk. Lau will talk. Isn't it Lau? You see, he's even looking very quiet. Well, it's not that quiet though.
He's blinking.
And you'll be thinking, by the time he comes back, well, he will first come out with his logic. Then you still think, okay, yes. By the time he hits you with the punchline, you're like, wow, where did that come from now? So it shouldn't cause problems, what I'm saying, particularly if we have learned to communicate. Just say, hey, if you're getting feedback, you can always adjust people's expectations. As long as that personality is not causing harm. That's, and sometimes by doing that, some people may not understand that you're trying to drive something that is godly. Just keep explaining that. I'm sorry, but this thing needs to be done. I'm sorry how you feel about it, but it's not, people like say, no, you're being wicked. I'm so sorry for being wicked, but, just keep talking. Is that useful?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so purpose, usually I addressed this earlier. Often before we marry, we have a sense of what we want to achieve. The man has his vision and his purpose. The woman has her vision and purpose. And often you define this by the general trajectory of your life and motion, usually say the last 5 years, and what you're projecting to the next 5 years. Now, when you come into marriage, it's important that you put all of those ones down and seek God together for how what you perceive to be purpose is supposed to be brought together in the context of marriage. Now, purpose doesn't mean you do exactly the same jobs. Does that make sense? Purpose is what impact is our home called for. Now that we've come together and the sum of our resources, our experience and our encounters and vision, what can God create out of this? That should then be your purpose. So it might actually be a mixture or a merging of the two. It might actually be a modification of the two. It might actually be that, maybe what we've been doing is just training boot camp, where now the real thing is different. It's possible. So that's very important. P. Now, you see this people P. Hey, the people are those who are going to be important to your marriage. Family, friends, church members, kingdom community members. This will make you or break you. Are you listening to me? The people around you, if they are not based on your value systems, they can kill your marriage's purpose. Don't choose this community just because they go to your church and they talk well. Make sure that they have the same value sets. Now, that's different from family. I always have time for family. But just make sure that those you are allowed to shape your value sets. And those that at points of vulnerability you're exposed to, make sure they are kosher. Otherwise, we get some halal. Does that make sense? Yeah, get the real one, not the inverse. So people, you need to discuss it because you have to. Well, my husband is trying to take my friends from me. Or my wife is trying to tell, my friends. I've known these people, but it's to start to say, okay, well, let's look with God's principle at this people set. What value will they add to our present and our future? And how should we relate with them going forward in the light of purpose? You cannot be sentimental about those you are supposed to be married to. I was sharing with my friend yesterday, some people I've had to, that I like, that I've had to forcibly create a distance with because of my home. And some people that I would not have gone for may be around me because it follows God's purposes. Does that make sense? Don't take those decisions lightly. The scripture is full of examples of people who missed it because of people around them. So, who are the people pouring into you? Who are the people you are accountable to? Who are the people you are accountable with? A lot of marriages nowadays want to exist in isolation. Don't make that mistake. And don't choose friends just because we're in the same social status. Hey! Choose friends that you're in the same Christ status. Do you hear what I said? Not even spiritual, because sometimes we misunderstand spiritual to mean that they are praying in tongues and jumping up and down. I'm talking about value system and direction. Anyway, let's do that. Potential is that for there to be a marriage, there has to be something about that marriage that has the potential to do something, great impact. You must understand that when you're in that business room. Because business room is really about potential. Is what can this marriage produce? How will it produce it? Now, the projects, this is what we discussed before we get married. Often in marriage, these are the plans. These are the ways we want to achieve the potential. Okay? Now, the people that are going to, the factors that are important to this potential being done, guess what? Are the first four. Because you cannot really produce consistent fruit without your person, your personality, your sense of purpose in the marriage, and the people context around you are very important to your fulfillment of potential. Now, this place is the project or the plans for the project, how you want to fulfill it, and the persona is what we talked about earlier. So for the business room, the persona is all those things I mentioned. For the relationship room, the personas there are lover to lover, friend to friend, brother to sister, you understand? That's the place where you can slap your husband in the back of the head. I doesn't mind, because I slap me again. But when you change rooms, that's when you say, that's that. Leave that play. When he does that, just know that the heart has to. You just wear your crown as a wife. And says, my Lord, what do you need? Then he steps down and he takes off his crown and he can slap his head again for being naughty. Don't do that. Then persona. Now, this is very important. In the project room, this causes a lot of confusion in many homes. In the project room, sometimes it might seem like the personas in the project room will depend on the project. So for instance, let's say we decide to have a business together, but my wife is the technical expert in the business. So she can be the director or whatever. She can be the one telling me what to do. Does that make sense? So we want to sort out our finances. She's better at managing the finances. I have to defer to her in that. I should now feel that because I'm the leader in the business room means I'm the leader of this project. No, in that project, it makes sense for us that she'd be the lead. Do you see that? So by separating those conversations, you realize the fact that because she comes up and says, my dear, can we have a conversation, please? I noticed some debits in the accounts in the last 2 or 3 days. I don't remember that we discussed it. In that moment, the husband will be glitching between, should I allow myself to credit like this or should I run into the business room? No, don't go into the business room yet. Stay in that project room and say, actually this is what happened. X, Y, Z, A, B, C. You can say, no, but see, that's not financially prudent. Allow her to talk. Take it in. Then when you get into the relationship, you now say, my dear, the way you talk to me, I didn't like it. You just gave it to me. All because I spent 3,000 pounds. Say, 3,000 pounds. You know how long it took us to save it? Yeah, I know. Sorry. Before you now get to the business room, don't use the business room to punish the matter. Are you getting the idea? So allow for each other's strengths, but of course with agreement. Don't assume that role just because you are better. Let it be discussed. about our finances. How do you think we should manage it, my dear? Well, since you're better at it, maybe you should manage that. Ask him again. How do you see that working? X, Y, Z, A, B, C. All right. Should, in case one of us goes overboard, what should we do? Make sure you write it down. That's why it's good for you to be the secretary. Write it down and say, do you like what I've written? So that when you now come and say, £3,000, and he said, I say, we signed this together. You are the ones that authorized this operation. This is my point. So those things just give some value. Next slide. I have a feeling my 1 hour is up. Next slide. So I'll just finish with this. I don't know which stage you guys are at in this matter, but this is just to give you an idea of how to work with the seasons of your marriage. Men actually don't look at this too much, but this affects women more. Because women process this season subjectively. It has an impact on them physically, emotionally, socially. But most of the time, men, logically. You just process how much more money is it costing me? What are the things I need to be bought? For instance, suddenly you're in the initiation stage, the one is trying to feel that moment and lock into it and experience it, you know. But the man, for him, is just that, yeah, I wasn't married, now I'm married. That's all. But for a woman, you know, it's all the experience of before the marriage, how it happened, what happened on the day, what happened after the day. Am I right, ladies? Am I speaking your heart? Am I speaking your heart, ladies? Talk now. Yes? So each stage has an impact on the woman. So that's why we need to understand these stages and how it impacts both parties. So for instance, the man just says, my dear, I think it's time for us to have a baby. That's what the man knows. The process to make the baby is enjoyable for the man. And then he's supposed to sit and walks away. But the woman is one after 3 months, after 6 months. She's one that belly is getting distended, and all those kind of things. So it affects the lady. So it's good to understand these stages in that light, to look at what are the challenges, so that you can mitigate the effects of it. So initiation, like I said, is often pre-marriage to a few months post-marriage. It's just like we're initiating this. It's just to find out information, test things, make sure that you're on equal footing, set the people structures around you, you know, all the baselines, how we're going to work out our conversation, blah, 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 blah. Then next stage to that is begin to prepare your marriage to fulfill the destiny that you see together. And that will involve mapping out purpose, developing one another. So you're saying over the next 5 years, you want to go to school or study this and get this experience, but you must be tracking it to purpose, to an impact, to the persons you need to be. It must be, you know, and that gives it purpose. Not just that. I just always said in my heart that, you know, I have to go to Harvard. Why do you want to go? I don't know. I just have said it. And then you go and come back and you don't use it for anything. Don't do that. Do you see what I mean? So align everything to the end point, to the end game. Okay? So consolidation is where you're preparing and engaging with all of those things. Then development and impact is, of course, that continuous improvement and continuous delivery. Bible says the path of the righteous shine brighter and brighter still on the perfect day. So that's what you want to see. Your ability to deliver impact is increasing because you're continuing to develop in grace capacity. In childbearing and child rearing, there's a lot to say about that. That's another phase you need to prepare for. You need to discuss it. So if you don't plan for it and another baby just shows up, sit down and discuss it. This baby is coming now. You know that that's a project for the next 22 or 23 years. Then God help you if you have if you have 2 or 3 or 4. So that just means the next 30 years, a project that you have to keep discussing, you have to keep reviewing in the business room. And you have to look after it. 20-something years before you can say, I know that now when I talk to my wife and say, well, should we have another child? You know, the looks that come out from her face towards me are not things I'm proud of. And I'm just thinking, another child. But at this stage where she's now saying, yeah, now, after all these years, I have a little bit of freedom to be able to engage some development. You now bring another child on the scene. The last one that we did, she didn't talk to me for 6 months. And it was not my fault.
Right.
No, sincerely, it was God. She's here.
No, you posted it from are away, then you posted it by
No, no, no.
picture.
Ah,
So
Just
it's
like-
not your fault.
I don't know if she wants me to share it again. If she begs me, I won't share it. Should I share it?
First of all,
That's why I move on with the teaching.
I don't want to share it. She knows, as in the Spirit of the Lord came, I'm being serious, the Spirit of the Lord came upon her in that season, and she prayed in tongues. From beginning to end, she knew not what happened. I'm being serious. First time. Because when I said to her, thus saith the Lord, I think the Lord is saying to us to have a third child now. She said, no, I'm not ready for it. I said, the Lord has said, I don't want to hear about it. And since that day, I could not touch without a gate pass. A condom. No, my wife, she's very, want to come in? Where is it? Okay, ma'am. Then this particular day, the Spirit of God came over her. I came back from work. She grabbed me, slam dunk. And I was thinking, and that is not my wife. Honestly, Pastor Shea knows. No, that, I said, blimey. The Lord is good. So after we were done, I realized she did not ask for the ticket. So I said, madam, you forgot to ask her. What? What? I mean, you're an evil man. Why would you do that to me? I thought she must be joking. And she hopped in the bathroom and had a good bath. You know what I'm talking about? Hoping that by some miracle. But I thought, she's kidding. The next day, the same thing happened. Someone said witness. So who is the power of witness? So after the second day, I said, madam, you know what you are doing, come on. Even though it's unusual. He said, what? He said, what? I said, we just, And yes, of course, that time, she gave me like a 100-yard distance. But the deed was done. That was our third child. And for 6 months, the messenger got blamed. Until the Lord said to her, my dear daughter, this child is for me. And God then sidelined me and gave her the name for the child and didn't talk to me. So that's when she forgave me. Pastor Bola, I lie? Okay, let's move on safely. I will pay for that later. But I'm just letting you see, it was just that. Of course, that's a real story, really. And it just shows God working in the affairs of men. But I'm saying it's good to discuss it. It's good to discuss it. Our discussion produced that, little, no, you can't have it. But God, because it was God, if a man of God says it is God, God will prove himself. Hallelujah. So if you say it is God, allow God to prove himself. Don't force it. Next slide. Legacy is the last one. You must plan for the things that God is doing through you to last beyond you. That's just where I want to put that. We must all plan together for what the Lord is doing through us to last beyond us. Christ has called us to bear fruit, and our fruit may abide. I may say this in closing. The principles of the kingdom center around 4 key pillars. That first, citizenship, that we are all citizens of the kingdom of God, and that every citizen is a child of God. That's the first pillar. Second pillar is sonship. Sonship dictates that every child of God must grow to maturity in sonship so that God can commit to you resources to manage. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Marriage is a form of stewardship. It was to the human family that the stewardship of the whole earth is given. It is to the human family that it will also be, through the human family, it's going to be restored. God said to Abraham that I will not hide this thing from Abraham, he's my friend. I don't know if there's that particular scripture. Saying he command his household to follow me, but there's another place where it says that it is through him that he said, I will bless you and you'll be a blessing. And through you, all the whole families, not churches, families of the earth. Someone say family. God is looking for family. Bible says, bow my knees to Lord, Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, in whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named. So stewardship of your family is actually stewardship of more. May the Lord allow us to come into stewardship. Now, stewardship means this. You own nothing. You're a steward of everything. Say to your spouse, we own nothing. We own nothing. We are stewards of everything. Of one another, of the people around us, of the opportunities around us, of the grace of God around us, of the wealth of God around us. We own nothing. We acknowledge the Lord in everything. When we give Him all that we have, it is the most we can afford. It is the least that He deserves. Now, what I mean by that is this. It's not just giving Him your money. As in, when you put yourself in the offering basket and your life is expended for Him, don't expect a thank you. You should be saying thank you if He accepts you. Does that make sense? That's the posture towards the Lord. You don't give yourself to Him and expect Him to pat you on the hand. But like you gave more. You have not given as much as He did. So stewardship means you own nothing. It's a steward, you're a steward of everything. Then the last one is representation. Citizenship, sonship, stewardship, representation is why we're here. We want to be able to represent Christ to the world. That's all He's ever asked for. Are we going to give Him that or not? So, gentlemen and ladies, that is the 3 rooms, the 7 P's, and the 5 seasons of marriage. Put your hands together for Jesus.
In the seasons of marriage, you've got legacy as the final bullet point.
Yep.
I was just thinking, is it not true that legacy is something you should be thinking about in the initiation?
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have the hands-on focus
Until later on. Yeah, I think that everything from, and thank you for asking that question, everything from initiation to legacy should be a subject of conversation in the business room of marriage from get-go. You must plan for those stages. You must prepare for those stages. You must build capacity for those stages. Because if you don't discuss it from the early point, by the time you get to that point, you're gonna flounder. You understand? So you're right. All of those stages should be the conversations that happen in the business room, and the potential being developed in the relationship room, and the projects are building you up to that point, where from season to season, and one of the things also that you gain from those seasonal conversations that it allows you to have a focus for your conversation. Because you don't want a situation where you're saying, Pastor said we should have business room, what should we talk about? First ask yourself. You should want to ask yourself the question, what phase are we in? What is the success parameter of this phase? How should we approach the phase? What are the threats in this phase? How do we mitigate them? All sort of things. So if you are thinking at the phase level, it does help. So you're now looking, we're consolidating. What does that look like? How should we do it? Who should we look to? What are the people around us for this phase? Blah, 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 blah. Then what does legacy look like in terms of the long term? So I think, ideally, we should be at the point where we can plan for 50, 60 years ahead, if possible. Now, it will depend on our gifting and graces. The way I'm wired, because I naturally just see things fall into place. It may be different from a family where you guys are probably a bit more logical. You know what I mean? So for instance, if I'm going to do a business, I would struggle to sit down and write a business plan. I'll probably get someone to do it for me. Let's just get in and do it. My friend here is worse, by the way. I don't think he's ever written a business plan in his life and he's been making a lot of money. But there are people like that. But some people cannot do it except the right. So find out what works for you, but have a sense of vision and purpose.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it. The question I was going to ask was around, in terms of tangible, real, how do you synergize with God's purpose? But you touched on it when you went through the 7 P's and you went through the different rooms. So how I understand it is jointly you pray together for the vision that God's now given the marriage. So what's it now? So I had this, you had that. What's God saying?
Yeah.
And then discuss that vision in the business room.
Yep.
So discuss it there, and you have the relational room too, with how you interact and how you engage with each other.
Yep.
And then you would have actual projects relating to vision for the business room,
Definitely.
according to your purpose that you act on.
Yeah.
So it might just look like you have a diary, you sit down on Wednesday, 4 o'clock, we're going to discuss this, we're going to do something on this date in October, it's in line with the vision, are we aligned? So that's how I see that one working on a
Brilliant. I would say, of course, in the initial stages, you want to have a lot of those conversations. I actually advise people the honeymoon should be used for that. aside from other things. You know, the honeymoon should be used for that. But some people do the honeymoon and they come back and say, hey, what do we do next? You just wasted time. Aside from all the things you are doing, honeymoon, you should have sat down to talk. You know, so, but anyway, you guys are past that now, so we forgive you for your sins and what you did in the honeymoon. Yeah, so, but there needs to be a time when you sit down to understand the end point and you're discussing it. Doesn't mean it has to be clear, but just there's a sense of it and you're working towards it together. And then you should have, as it works for you, periodic interactions and review and feedback and adaptation conversations. You know, eventually you're not going to be saying, my dear, let's enter business room. Eventually, you will not need to announce it. You just know that, okay, it's just to train your mind.
Sorry. With regards to that, because you're just starting, for those who have been in it for a while, they realize it's easier to stay in the business room because you have ongoing projects. So just like a project manager, because you're within the life cycle of a particular project, it will necessitate meetings. So for instance, this morning, my wife and I, we've already had a business meeting because there was something that we've been working on, and an email came from one of our solicitors. I just forwarded it to her. She read it, and when she was ready, she called me in the morning that, oh, I read the email too, and quickly, within 5 minutes, made a decision. You understand? And everybody have their own deliverables. You know, things to be done by the end of the week. So while we were sat here, she's already emailed me that, oh, I've done this. So once you start the process, the problem is if you don't start it, then it's haphazard. You just do things and as they come along. But once you start that thing, you work together well and different people will fit into the roles. You know, like you might have a vision and your wife will become the custodian of that vision. And she will be the one to make you even run with it. Even when you want to get distracted, she will remind you what you said. And that's the one thing that gets any man. You don't want to be found to be a liar. So because you've said, and you know she will hold you to what you said, she will remind you. That's when Pastor I was talking about. The lady keeps the diary. Because men can talk things. You can just have I think we should do this, and you've forgotten that you said it. 3 years after, your wife will remind you, word for word, that you said, and you will then be compelled to do, which makes you more circumspect in what you say later, because you know she will remember. So sometimes you'll be like, God, I know you're saying this, but please, can we not announce this publicly yet? Because you know we'll have to perform. So do you get? So as you begin the projects, it gets easier. The frequency of meetings and all that will immediately sort themselves out.
Thank you. Yep, any other questions? If he seems to think, I know that look.
No, I was just thinking about the relationship room, and you mentioned like that's where nurturing and culturing takes place in order to achieve the stuff spoken about in the business room. Do you have like practical examples of what that looks like?
For the business room?
No, for the relationship room and how that practically aids the conversations in other rooms.
I think that we probably are going to be exposed more naturally to the relationship room than any other room. In terms of our relationship or our conversations, that's constant. Do you understand? This is just saying it's more intentional. Often, because of our roles, the serious roles we have in marriage, there's a need for us to have serious talk. That's why we have it in the business room. But when we don't need to have serious talk, we're doing life together anyway. And in order to do life together, there's a relational context to it. So that relational context is what we call the relational room. So it's not something without saying, now we're getting into the relational room. Often it just defaults. We just default into that when we are not having a serious conversation. For instance, as a man, I know that when I don't have something serious to pass across, I'm not really bothered about the business room conversation. We naturally just default because we're in a home, we're working together. But intentionality there is that we're focused on building a very strong communion with one another. Very well focused, as God-based. So there's intentionality where that is involved. Put it this way to make it easier. Most of the things you learn in relationship retreats apply to the relationship room. Like listen, learn, conversate, understand, share, all those bits. Most of what we have been learning in relationship is actually fitting for relationship room. So all of those things, love language, fits there. You understand what I mean? So it's just intentionally using that, but rather than just allowing the purpose of that conversation to only be about our feelings and our needs, is putting purpose and God in perspective. So that when we are then doing that, it's even richer, because it's now based on spiritual principles. But the goal of that is to become one. The goal of the relationship is becoming one flesh. So basically, you want to build a relationship to a point where you are literally, or let's put it this way, your soul has, your home has a soul of its own. Does that make sense? So whatever constitutes your soul, your home, you are able to build something that is unified, that you can say, when we look at the family of the Lees or Carter Daniels, they've involved a soul, or let's just call it a logic, of a social logic that reflects who they are in Christ. That cannot happen without very strong chemistry. Does that make sense? Built on spiritual principles.